Hello there. YouTube game, I swear every episode is not like this. Back at it again with the final banger of the year. So to end off this year, I wanted to briefly just talk about something that I had in regards to a media consumption realization. This was basically brought on by an evening that I had with my wife, not like that. And this was brought on by basically the holy trinity of millennials, which is weed, coffee, and alcohol all together, all at once. And also, for those of you who don't know, this is why the West Coast is the best coast.
Step on it, Daddy!
So my wife and I, we were discussing BookTok novels. You know, the ones with the very funny titles like Sasquatch Love Potion, Monster Mating number 13, or I was an F-rank foot soldier and now I'm an S-rank monster breeder, or most recently, 2025 Dungeon Master's Guide. You know, those types of books that even just by looking at the cover and reading the title, you can tell that it makes 50 Shades of Grey look like Pride and Prejudice. And somewhere between my third hard coffee and my fourth Bingus Bongus Windsor time, I started wondering to myself, what is the male equivalent of these romance novels? And if you think that this was the beginning of a terrible decision, grow up. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I have made jokes about being a man of culture, if you know what that means. I think I can make jokes about needing to reproduce the goblin oh my God. I can make jokes about goblin booty. So, me being a man of due diligence and research, I found the Romance for Men subreddit, and it coincided with an Audible sale. And because of that, I started listening to a story called Goblin Breeder. Yes, that is really the title. It is exactly what you think it is, but it's also at the same time not what you think it is. So about 7 chapters in, I just realized, holy shit, this is basically just an anime. And not just your run-of-the-mill anime, you know, your battle shonen. No, this is every trashy, questionably dubbed, ones that you had to justify by saying you were, watching it for the plot. You know the ones, it's a story where a regular-ass dude ends up in some sort of magical fantasy realm, and through a series of failing upwards, he ends up being forced to just boink a whole bunch of non-human girls. Every teenager's fantasy. And as you just realized, like I did in real time, I've been here before. These stories are not new to me at all. I have basically watched this exact plot play out various times across my life with different tentacles, different lens flares, and basically just pieces of string that masquerade as clothing. The only difference is, instead of watching it in 24-minute episodes filled with inexplicable panty shots and improbable physics, I am instead experiencing this world through the oral sound and through the magic of spoken word. And I get to experience this very titillating journey through a protagonist named, I kid you not, Andrew Jones. He is a 5'8" redhead Irishman from North Florida, because even in our steamiest fantasies, we're not allowed to be tall. No offense to any short kings out there. I'm just 6 foot. I can't really help it. You see, what makes these stories just so interesting and compelling isn't just their similarity to anime, is how they've basically copy-pasted the whole anime playbook while still being able to tell some pretty damn good stories. We have your standard tropes here. We have the Isekai stand-up, that is essentially a normal person being transported to a magical or fantastical realm, for those of you who didn't spend your college years just subsisting on cup noodle and Crunchyroll. We have the harem dynamic, so basically one person with multiple partners, and not really more of a polyamorous type of thing, it's just more of a indulgence. And of course we have the main character, whose most notable character attribute is that he has no notable character attributes. He is just strong enough to win in a fight, just smart enough to be able to do some basic math and chemistry and physics and all that, but still not so strong that he doesn't have to learn, he doesn't have to train, he doesn't get his little montage sequence. In fact, for most of these romance novels, I can probably find a nearly 1-to-1 anime to recommend to a viewer. First piece of proof, let's talk about this anime called Monster. It is literally about a guy who gets isekai'd to a goblin realm, and he becomes a goblin, and he somehow gets stronger by eating other goblins. Not like that, but then he also starts developing a goblin harem, so maybe he does start eating goblins like that. I don't know. I just read the plot. See, once again, you're watching it for the plot. It doesn't matter what happens in between. And then there's also Monster Musume, which is basically, what if your dating pool involved like bird women and snake women and a whole bevy of different types of hyphenated women? And how could I forget about the infamous anime Interspecies Reviewer, which is literally about 3 different fantasy adventurers making a tier list. These men's romance novels aren't just similar stories. I mean, they're practically the same story being told through different like nouns and adjectives and adverbs. It's horny Mad Libs. Got average guy meets supernatural ladies in improbable setting, and somehow they don't immediately die due to anxiety or nosebleeds or anything like that. The one thing that kind of took me a couple minutes to get over is how these books and these stories particularly handle their spicier moments. In anime, and I'm talking about anime with an A, not with an H, in anime, these scenes are heavily obscured, or they are censored, or even pixelated, depending on, what's going on at the time. You see things like convenient steam clouds, bushes and leaves and trees and stuff in front of whatever. And it's almost like these fantasy writers looked at these scenes and just said, what if we just removed the implication, which is always a little bit scary? We'll just be explicit about what we're talking about. And the result is something that manages to be more and less explicit depending on, how vivid your imagination is. Yeah. Yeah, as my wife said, the author went bet. And I mean, to be honest, these scenes are kind of fun. They're tantalizing and provocative, it gets the people going. It's doing exactly what it sets out to do. But just like sex scenes in R-rated movies, after a certain point, you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. The snake lady can unhinge her jaw. Let's move on back to the plot, please. Though I will say that this is where the advantages of audiobooks come into play. Depending on the quality of your voice actors, they will include sound effects. I will say that much. And I will say the female voice actor for Goblin Breeder, she does a really good job, especially in playing multiple women, especially in those scenes where she has to be multiple women at the same time. But she does a very good job of letting you know that who is receiving that round of applause in that current scene.
Round of applause, baby, make that ass clap. Drop it to the floor, make that ass clap.
And the world building is literally why I decided to make this whole video. Just like how some anime would actually sneak in genuinely interesting or detailed or intricate world building amongst all of its smut and trash and boobage, Goblin Breeder really does the same thing. It's almost like finding out that your local strip club has a chef in the back who is a James Beard Award winner. Yeah, sure, no one's really there for the steak, but it's still gonna be a damn good steak no matter what. And yeah, they may not be the main draw, but it's still going to be a pleasant surprise. So, quick setup. In Goblin Breeder, Andrew Jones is brought to this goblin world. Basically, the whole reason he is needed to sow his human roots amongst all the goblin foraging. Basically, in this world, an evil minotaur wizard, basically like a warlord wizard, think Bowser, but a minotaur, he decided to put a spell upon the goblin people as just a way to basically do psychological warfare. And the psychological warfare was he made the goblin women really hot and ready to go all the time, but also at the same time, all the men became impotent and can't get it up and have like low drive and low T, or I guess it'd be low G. It is cartoonishly evil, or should I say cargoonishly evil. I'm sorry, thank you, like and subscribe. Like if you've ever had a moment where you really wanted to spend time with someone and either you couldn't or they couldn't for one reason or another, yeah, it's funny, but it's also kind of sad. And so here was kind of like the grand realization and the connection that I made to everything while in my what we used to call back in my day my shwasted state. And really the whole thing about this is the way that we selectively apply guilty pleasures to different types of media. When I was younger, and I mean obviously up until maybe a year or two ago, thanks to all the ladies at BookTok destigmatizing this entire genre, I really kind of poo-pooed on people who read those novels and thought that, oh, you know, it's just smut. But at the same time, I would be watching something like High School DxD, where boobs have individual physics, and things like Prison School, which is like the ultimate step on me mommy show for anyone who wants to be stepped on. I mean, right now, the central plot to Dandadan, you know, the biggest anime of the year, is a high schooler trying to find his left nut. And then in the latest episode that I saw, he offered to give his dingus in order to help heal a sick child. That's Jerry behavior. That's literally Jerry from Rick and Morty.
Oh my God!
I'm a good person.
So do not come for me about listening to a book named Goblin Breeder, where Andrew Jones, a 5'8" white man from North Florida, is the one true person that can save an entire species by sleeping with sexy, voluptuous, short, green goblin women. Like, obviously this cognitive dissonance would be a lot more funny if it just wasn't so unironically prevalent in people across just all sorts of different mediums of media. And let's be honest, we are all guilty of yucking someone else's yum, especially if that yum came from someone else's yum. But here's the great part about getting older is that you finally start to realize that liking trashy media does not make you trash. It's like some days you want to watch and compare Steins Gate to Primer to figure out which one did a better job of doing time travel, and sometimes you just want to turn off your brain and watch Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? And sometimes, yes, it is. Because some days, after just a long day of being a responsible adult, making sure your kids don't turn your living room into a Fortnite recreation, and just trying to spend a little bit of time with your loved ones, sometimes you just need to turn your brain off and just enjoy some young, dumb, full of fun. I will say it is okay to basically read a story about an aggressively okay dude becoming aggressively pretty good. I mean, there is a reason why Mother Basement's Hottest Trash series does so well. It's because there really is an art in being able to write something that is kind of trashy and smutty or what have you, but still telling a compelling and good story. It's like threading a needle with a boxing glove. You don't think it's possible, but if it does happen, it is pretty damn impressive. And I mean, like with other stuff I'm reading right now, I'm trying to read House of Leaves. I'm still working my way through freaking this book, Brandon Sanderson, reading the audiobook of that one too. So yeah, you know what? Between having to worry about freaking hemalurgy and investitures and whatever the hell's going on in House of Leaves, booty cheeks. And I completely understand what my wife means now with these books being like the literary equivalent of comfort food. They're not trying to win any, you know, Pulitzer Prizes or anything like that. They know what they're doing, they know what they're about, but at the very least, they're going to do a good job of it. And there is something really admirable about that. And I'd say there's really something honest about that too, because I mean, think about it. If you look at the history of things like pulp novels from back in the day and a lot of those weird sci-fi, weird horror type of stories, those writers went on to create some of the most influential stories within their genre. So who are we to judge? Because freaking Stephanie Meyer made Twilight as a freaking like fan fiction book, and look where we're here now. So who are we to judge? Sometimes you need to learn the rules of storytelling in the trenches of trash before you can start breaking glass in the halls of high art. Though I will say, this new hobby of mine has introduced a handful of parenting challenges that I didn't think would ever exist. For example, a few nights ago, my younger two girls, they still share a room together, I decided to try to put on a bedtime story for them, and because I was tired, I wasn't thinking, I just basically said, "Hey, Amazon thing, play a bedtime story from Elijah's Audible." And then the next thing you hear is, "Playing Goblin Breeder from Elijah's Audible." And I'm just sitting there, "Alexa, stop! Alexa, stop! Stop!" I mean, luckily, she didn't hear anything. I think that I was in one of the regular chapters, but she did ask why she couldn't listen to that book about goblins. She hasn't asked about it since, but like, I have to start worrying about that now. I have to see if there's a way for me to like hide that book from everyone but me. And the funny thing is, this like reminds me of back in the day, trying to hide your certain copies of DVDs or mangas, you know, hiding them between different DVDs or, you know, perfectly angled covers and stuff like that. I mean, the only difference now, instead of hiding copies of Bible Black behind copies of Cowboy Bebop, it's me trying to bury these audio books under copies of like Dune and Stephen King's The Stand, pushing it as far as I can to the bottom of my library. I mean, the more things change, the more things stay the same. I will say, I do think and hope that these books do follow the same trajectory as, you know, anime did. And I mean in terms of something that was kind of sidelined by a lot of people, but throughout the years, as better stories started coming out, as people started expressing their appreciation for the genre, leading to a destigmatization. So now, instead of hearing about, you know, subs versus dubs, now we're getting heated debates about different shippings and different bedroom pairings, and I would honestly much rather debate that between you and I, because apparently just some things stay the same across all horny media. All right, so as we are wrapping up, I want to just very quickly address the men that are watching this video that can at least admit to themselves that they are curious about this stuff, but, you know, they're afraid of being judged or made fun of or anything like that. There is a weird idea that, you know, straight men, they're not allowed to enjoy romance novels, they're not allowed to read them, and especially they're not allowed to enjoy or read any romance novels that are more male-centric. In my opinion, getting on my soapbox, I would say real masculinity is being able to sit here and make a video talking about how you have read a book called Goblin Breeder and how you will probably read the rest of the series when you have time, or listen to it because, you know, audio. But I think it should be something where you can say that with the same casual confidence that you would saying that, oh yeah, I watched this newest anime or I read this newest comic book, that you would with like a normie coworker. If anything, being able to own your entertainment choices without being able to flinch, that is probably the manliest thing that you can do in this regard. Plus, let's be honest, I mean, reading some of these books, you could get inspired in some ways or some things to do with your partner. Not necessarily the goblin specific parts. We listen and we don't judge, but just the general concepts of communication, attention to detail, and just putting your partner's desires and needs before yours. Revolutionary concepts, I know. And I would think and hope that being able to read and analyze the story on its own merits, looking past all the goblin colored genitals, like I would think and assume you as a man would have the ability to do something like that. To be more forward thinking and mindful when it comes to open bedroom communication with a more sex positive attitude with your partner. Because at the end of the day, that's really what makes these books really interesting. It's not the spice, it's the growth. Not like that, or maybe like that. The thing about guilty pleasures is like that whole guilt part that's not coming from you, that's coming from other people. That is society's baggage being dumped on your doorstep like a reverse package thief. It's shame that you never signed up for, so why should you be embarrassed about something that brings you joy and happiness and yes, even a little bit of titillation? As long as you're not hurting anyone and all parties involved are all consenting adults, do whatever you want, dog. And I would say that the most powerful thing about all of this, the whole thing that really brought us here, is just the act of self-realization. Being able to discover that, hey, there is another part of yourself that was always there, but just you never got a chance to really meet them or talk to them or just even know that they were in the same room as you. And by room, I mean your brain. Especially now as we barrel even closer to oblivion, this is the perfect time for you to figure out what your real self is, for you to Whether that is a person enjoying culture-based romance novels, a grown man in his 30s enjoying anime with an A, or, you know, someone enjoying pineapple on pizza, because it's an old joke. Get over yourselves, anti-pineapple people, go touch bay leaves. So my final advice for this video, if you are an aging millennial that misses the joys of discovering new shows that make you feel a certain type of way, maybe give these audiobooks a shot. Find something that seems interesting to you, give it a read, give it a download, don't feel weird about it. And also, 2 things. Every book has a quote unquote that scene. Be sure to control your face while listening to it. And second off, if you listen to an audiobook in your car, listen to me, if you listen to an audiobook in your car, people can hear it on the outside. Your car is not a cone of silence. Learn from my mistakes. Okay, time for the outro. Hi folks, thank you for making it to the end of this video. I just wanted to shoot something quick and dirty to round out this year. No, not like that. Genuinely, the Goblin Breeder book, it's pretty good. If you actually want me to do a more thorough breakdown of the book, talking about it, you know, the whole plot and stuff like that, leave a comment below. If we get to the 200 likes or something, I'll do a I'll Goblin Booty. So yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share this. No, I'm seriously though, hit that like button. I'm watching you. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. I saw that you did that. And yeah, I guess road to 3,000. You know, like that movie 3,000. Except I think one of them was a 0. Anyways, I want to get this out now. So happy new year. I'll see you all in 2025. And if you actually like this more casual format, let me know, because I can do a lot more of these in a lot shorter time. Okay, bye.